Hi, I'm Steve Barlow. This is the Humanised Workforce Future You podcast video, where we're talking about perceptions of the future, issues that we need to be aware of, and their role in a rapidly changing work and life environment.
Hi, I'm Craig Saffin. The Humanised Workforce Future You podcast series is focused on the key factors evolving to create a more humanised workforce and how people from all walks of life are creating their future selves. Hi, welcome to the Humanised Workforce Future You podcast series. Today we're going to be looking at a new topic, or a different topic, called flow and how it relates to leadership. And the reason we're picking up on this is because last week you will recall that we interviewed Sarah Hughes, who's a very experienced medical professional, having had a career from nursing right up through into the IT sector. And one of the things she raised was the importance of flow in the workplace. So today I've got Steve Barlow with me as usual. Hi, Steve.
Hi, Craig.
Okay, Steve. Now I know this your specialty is change fitness, and I think flow is an important part of that. So what does flow mean to you as an expert in the change fitness space?
Well, just as a human being, I think, we get into places in our lives sometimes where there's a lot of flow, where things kind of just happen easily, and we are in the groove, or in the zone, as people say, and we're working and it's all happening. And when we're in that space, we're absorbed, we're focused, we feel fulfilled, we feel energized. Time kind of rushes by and we're not really paying any attention to it.
Yeah.
And we seem to be really productive, and it feels great. I mean, I love it when I'm in that space and things just kind of, they flow. There's no blockages, there's no artificial, disturbances. It just really happens well. Now, that's not something that happens all the time.
It's like being in the zone, is it? Like in that zone?
Like being in the zone, where it's just all happening, and it seems to be easy, and we're just really productive, and we're creative, and we can get our words down, or ideas come to us, and we're able to shape them and make them work. And I mean, they may not be final ideas, but they're part of the process, and it's great to be in that sort of space where these things happen. But of course, they don't always happen, and so that's the problem. So how do we deal with it when they don't happen? But
so, what sort of things block that flow experience, or that being in the right zone?
Well, I'm only speaking personally, but I think anxiety is one thing that does. If you're worried about stuff, if you've got things on your mind and you can't really focus on what you're trying to do, and sometimes I'll sit down at my desk and I'll want to get a whole lot of things done during the day, but there are things on my mind that I can't stop thinking about, and so that sort of takes the flow away. And it becomes more difficult to focus. And if you can't focus on it, you can't get in the groove. You can't sort of get in that zone where things start to naturally happen easily. And yeah, that's what I find is the challenge.
One of the things related to this, one of the things I've noticed in the business press, like the Fin Review and things like that. A lot of leaders are talking about how important meditation sessions are and things like that to start the day or to finish the day. Do you think these sorts of things are practices that help build that flow environment, or that ability to be in the zone?
I think that they're things that can help. I mean, a lot of the things that we worry about or that are on our mind are, they're not as bad as they don't turn out as bad as what we think they're going to be.
That's right.
And I think that meditation or whatever it is that you do, just going for a walk or doing something else for a little bit of time, helps you to get some perspective. And I think getting perspective is a part of it. I mean, the world's not perfect, and it doesn't have to be perfect. If we focus too much on the negative stuff, then that takes the energy away from what we're supposed to be doing or what we want to do. And a lot of it is dealing with energy, you know, getting rid of the negative energy or putting it aside and saying, well, you know, I might be anxious about something. I'm allowed to be anxious about that, but that's just sort of, let's put that aside for the time being and get on with what I'm trying to do here today.
It's harder to do. It's easy to say, but hard to do, isn't it? One of the things, I'm a runner and I love going running. But a long time ago, actually, I made a decision not to take music with me or headphones. I used to listen to podcasts. It was my time to catch up on podcasts and things like that. But actually, I don't take anything now. I just go and I get into the zone. Quite often, I can't remember where I've run or what it was out there or something, because I'm in a zone and I'm just trying. It's my form of meditation. What do you do to try and get into the zone, or to try and get rid of all of those distractions that you were just talking about?
Yeah, well, I think there's two things that I tend to do. One is walking. I love walking, so I do quite a lot of walking. And if I just go for a walk around the lake or around the beach or something, you know, the air, the distant horizon, the water and the birds and stuff, it just sort of blows the cobwebs away, you know, and I sort of don't think about the stuff anymore. The other thing that I like to do is I'm a big podcast listener.
Yeah.
And so I like to listen to things that inspire me. And one of the things that inspires me a lot is science. So I love listening to science podcasts, and it just gives me the bigger picture, you know. And a lot of the things we worry about are very issues in our own life. It's sort of small stuff, really. The experience of it feels big, but when you look at it in the grand scheme of things, it's actually probably pretty small, really. And so I find that when I listen to something that's expansive, it puts everything in perspective, you know, and I start to see it in a different light. And then I say, oh, okay, well, I'll just deal with that, you know. There are things that you got to deal with now, and there are things that you can, you know, that you're not going to solve now. So there are other things to be thought about.
Yeah, when you have a big picture context or perspective, it allows you to put things into context, doesn't it? So yeah. So yeah.
And I think a lot of it is learning too. You know, you've got to learn to do this. It's a discipline, and it takes time to practice it.
Takes time, right? Yeah. So do you, when from the running though, I've quite often come back with some great ideas on how I can optimize the when I want to get into the zone or be in a flow like you're referencing. Quite often the running and that form of meditation for me helps me move into that zone, because I've got rid of all the other stuff while I've been out there. Does that happen on your walks and listening to your podcast?
Oh yeah, listening to that, or sometimes even if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'll put sort of a podcast on from YouTube and listen to it. Right. And like it happened the other night, and then I was sort of inspired with all these thoughts, and I had to come out to my desk and start writing stuff down, you know, because I needed to get it down on paper.
Yeah.
New ideas.
Right. It's a very noisy world, isn't it? So we've got a lot of things coming at us, either whether it's email or SMSs or social media. All of this is very invasive into the workspace, isn't it? Or wherever you're working, and so it takes a conscious act. Do you think to get into flow, or do you just think it can happen automatically?
Well, I think it can happen automatically, you know, if all the conditions happen to sort of fall into play. But it takes a deliberate use of your time as well. You've got to be deliberate about it. So, you know, you might say, well, I've got a couple of hours today that I'm going to focus on something. And, you know, you've just got to deliberately try and put yourself there. But you can't always do it. See, sometimes you've just got to allow other things to happen. Like, I sometimes I try to force myself to sit at my desk and do stuff, but it's just not. It just doesn't work because
you're a writer, aren't you? You write a lot, and you've written several books, of course. And I haven't written that much at all in comparison to you. But what I've heard from people who write a lot, especially those who do it for a living, fiction and nonfiction, they want to be in that zone, don't they? And they set their day up so that they have that uninterrupted time in which they can punch out a certain amount of content. And that's sort of like being a period of flow for them, is it? Is that how you experience it as well?
Yeah, well, I think that you can set out a time, and sometimes you're naturally in the flow. Like sometimes you can't, you've got full of ideas and you can't wait to get them down on paper. And other times you're not so much there. You've got to force yourself you've got to deliberately put things aside and then focus on, and then that works. And other times it just doesn't work no matter what you do. Yeah, right. And you've just got to go with the flow on that one. You know what I mean? If it's just not going to happen, it's not going to happen. And
tell me a little bit about a leader who is able to get in the flow and able to generate this environment, this work environment that you're describing. Tell me how that looks compared with someone who isn't able to generate that space.
That's a very hard question. I'm not sure that I can answer that question, but I just speak personally, I suppose. What we've been saying is the more you do it, the more you practice it, the better you get at it. And like, you never become perfect at it, I don't think, but you get better at it. And some people, at the start, they might find that they just can't focus. They just can't concentrate for long enough to get anything working. And, well, to get from there to where you want to be is a learning experience. You can learn how to do it.
It's a skill you have to practice, is it?
Yeah, it's a skill you have to practice. You have to learn to sit there, and you need to be organized too. You need to have clear goals. Like, what am I going to do today? What do I want to achieve? And they've got to be realistic. And I mean, if you're getting started and flow doesn't happen that well for you, just pick small goals and say, well, if I can get a page written today, or if I can map out something today that I need to do, because momentum builds over time. Once you get started, then you sort of think, oh, okay, well, I came up with a bit of a model or a bit of a diagram, a bit of a picture, a bit of a concept last time. Oh, I think I can work on that. And your subconscious mind will work on it as well and will help you. You don't have to be consciously thinking of it all the time. But that's the habit, that's the discipline, that's the learning that's involved with it. And as you get better at it, then if you're a leader, or if other people are watching you, they'll learn from what you do.
Okay. So before I move on to that space, because that's a very good segue there, actually, but I want to just pull you back one bit and say, if you are good at this, if you develop this skill, does it make you more effective at being able to execute strategy, or to be able to lead people, or to engage with people? What is it? What is the tangible outcome here?
Well, I mean, one of the most powerful things is your communication.
Right.
That's how you're going to influence people, is through communication. And the better you are at communicating ideas, the more influential you're going to be. And as long as the ideas are worthy ideas. Well, where are you going to get those ideas from? And how are you going to hone those ideas? How are you going to shape them? And how are you going to put language around them? How are you going to make them accessible to people? Well, that's going to take a lot of hard work on your part. You can look at people like, I mean, he's not around anymore, but people like Steve Jobs, who got up and gave those speeches, introducing the iPhone or whatever. Well, he practiced that for hours and hours and hours and hours to look so natural. It took a lot of work.
He was a perfectionist, wasn't he? So
he was a perfectionist, but even if you're not a perfectionist, it still takes a lot of work. And that's where you need to get in this flow, because you're not going to get the work done, if it's like grinding teeth together. There's got to be some sort of, it's got to flow out of you in some way. And that's a training thing, I think.
Yeah. So the concept of flow to me is that it looks natural, right? It's not it's not a forced exercise, is it?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So then onto the actual segue that you gave earlier, and that is about leading others. So if you are able to do this and lead in an environment of flow, or create this environment of flow, how does it impact others in your team and the people you're trying to lead?
Well, I think learning is key to all of this. I think learning is key to a lot of things to do with leadership and change and growth. And you've got to be able to do it yourself, or at least you've got to be on the journey and learning and trying to do it. And then you've got to adopt the spirit of wanting to teach other people. And Sarah talked about this last week, didn't she? Where she talked about, leaders who actually want to communicate to their teams what they've learnt. And so I think there's that spirit of sort of saying, well, if the team is not very good at it, if the flow doesn't really happen in the team, then you got to teach them how to do it. So give them tasks that are doable, that are challenging but not too challenging, that they can actually that is structured in such a way that they know what they've got to do, and they're given enough time to do it, and they're given opportunities to work together. And if you can get that happening well, people will enjoy working together. Time will go past quickly. They'll produce what they need to produce, and they'll feel good about it. Thanks for watching this video on Humanised Workforce Future You. Please leave a rating or review for the series on the medium where you source your videos.
The transcripts for today's video can be found on craigsafan.com. Please subscribe to the series to avoid missing out on future episodes.